Atomic Blonde is this dirty, neon, sexy spy thriller, and I absolutely loved it. Hey Rad World, I'm Tony Walters, and I just saw Atomic Blonde. It stars Charlize Theron, James McAvoy, John Goodman, and Sofia Boutella. This movie's about Charlize Theron's character, who's an undercover MI6 agent who has been sent into Berlin to investigate the murder of a fellow agent and recover some sensitive data. This movie's directed by David Leitch, who was the co-director of the first John Wick movie. And so going into this movie, I was expecting pretty much just an action movie that was going to have some pretty amazing action and maybe not that much of a story if it was going to, play off anything that the original John Wick was, which, had a very simple premise and, an amazing action film, but they were able to sprinkle in a lot of, interesting story details to help open up the world. You know how much I love John Wick. But this movie was different than that. It was not just a female version of John Wick. This movie actually had quite a bit of story to tell and became very much more of a spy espionage film with a lot of kick-ass action sequences. So right off the bat, you're expecting a really awesome action movie, and this movie delivers on that action. All the action's shot in camera. You get to see all the stunt actors doing what they do best. And Charlize Theron just totally kicking ass. I know she did a lot of her own stunts for this movie, and it shows. You can really tell it's her, taking on all these guys at once, and it is awesome. So going into the movie, everybody's probably thinking this is just going to be a female John Wick movie. And what David Leitch is able to do is really separate himself from John Wick, still make an amazing action movie, but not make it feel like John Wick really at all, aside from the way that the action is shot. It's still all in camera. Still that style of being able to see everything and knowing the sense of space and the rooms and all that. But what it does differently, it invests a lot into the story that it's telling with these characters. It's all set in the Cold War. They're tearing down the Berlin Wall, and you have these agents trying to track down a double agent. The problem is that in the midst of telling those stories, the pacing of the movie has a bit of an issue. Right when you feel like the movie's about to build up, it'll slow down again. And then it'll start to build up, and then it'll slow down again because they're telling the story. And there's a lot of exposition in the film. It's not necessarily bad, but it does take a while for the action movie of the movie to really get going. And there's a couple of moments when you think it's about to really start to kick off into the action stuff, and then it slows down again. But once the movie finally picks up, it is fantastic. The movie really, really does a great job at being an action movie, and that's all I wanted when I came into the movie was David Leitch. He's a professional stuntman. John Wick, I want a kick-ass action movie, and that's exactly what they delivered. But they delivered a little bit more than that because of the style of the film and the music with the film. The style of the movie is something that really grabs you. It's based on a graphic novel, and it has scenes that are just colored completely red and blues. And it also has a lot of moments when they're in the streets of Berlin that are completely almost whitewashed and really dirty looking, and really gives you that sense of just this punk rock atmosphere that was Berlin at the time. But the movie also pushes the envelope and becomes just this really sexy spy thriller. The music is a lot of 80s synth stuff that all the action gets choreographed to. And it works really well, aside from maybe one or two choice songs. But for the majority of it, I did enjoy the music. I enjoyed the way that it all worked because it's all in-movie music. All of the music is playing on a radio or playing in a club. It's not just there to fill the scene for the most part. But it all tells a story. There's a lot of callbacks with the music to highlight certain sequences that happened previously. It works really well in the way that it's kind of orchestrated. Let's talk about Charlize Theron and how this woman needs to be in more action movies. She was awesome in Mad Max Fury Road, and with Atomic Blonde, let's give this woman some more action movies. She is an action star and needs to be treated as such. She is just kick-ass in this movie. You believe that she's beating all these guys up. You believe 100% that she can take on any of them. No question whatsoever. And that's a great action star. When you look at that person as a threat and somebody you wouldn't want to mess with, that's a success. James McAvoy is great in a supporting role. He is really killing it these days. He seems like he's done probably 5 movies in the past year. He's just working. and putting his heart and soul into every single role that he gets. I can't wait to see what else he's got coming up. John Goodman, maybe a little bit underutilized in the film for such a great actor, but the scenes that he is in, he is great in. I mean, John Goodman is a veteran in the acting industry. He's great. Never a bad performance from the guy, but I wish he would have been maybe utilized a little bit more in the movie, but the role that he has serves a really good purpose for the film. Sofia Boutella has been doing a lot of stuff here lately too, and you know, she's somewhat new onto the scene, at least for me. I started noticing her in like Star Trek Beyond, and then like the new Mummy movie and Kingsman, and now in this movie she's given a little bit more to do in this movie, so more so than maybe in like Kingsman or even in the Mummy. She plays a really interesting character that isn't so much of just like an action character, which she's played before. She has an action sequence, but her character is really there to bring more depth into Charlize Theron's character. She does a really good job as a supporting character in the film. I guess one of the bigger issues I had in the movie is that because it tries to tell such a big story, that story should be solid, and it does lack in the overall like twist of the film. Like, you're pretty sure you know who the bad guy is going in, and even when the twist reveals itself, it's not necessarily interesting. I feel like the movie exhausts itself over the story, that by the time the twist happens, you don't really care too much. You just want to see more people get their ass kicked. And you know, then they do that part. So it just leads right into more action, which is what you wanted going in the movie anyway. At least what I wanted going in the movie anyway. So by the end of it, you know, you still leave on a high note. It's a great movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Atomic Blonde gets an 8.5 out of 10. Absolutely fantastic, aside from a few pacing issues and some storytelling elements. I highly recommend going to see it when this hits in theaters here in like a couple of weeks. Be sure to check it out. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to hit that like button down there. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Check out my review from last week for Spider-Man Homecoming. And we'll catch you guys next week right here on Rad Movies.